Yep, it's that time of the year again, the holidays. Plenty of those songs from yesteryear will play on the radio, and carols will be all over the place. Gatherings for feast, and an endless amount of toys are to be purchased everywhere, as we all have to wait until the tail end of the month to know what goodies we got. And with that, burning all the greens in our wallets of our pockets for each other, because why not? With much joy and anticipation comes a cluster of stress. But one of the big things that plays into the holidays to cool us down and absorb the joy over the stress are holiday specials in the media. Titles like The Charlie Brown Christmas, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and the many different spins on the Christmas Carol are the prime examples that air on television. Among the holiday specials, Friendship is Magic is no stranger to this, as a total of 5 episodes delivered their take on Christmas. Hearth's Warming Eve. Now, I've reviewed each and every one of them over the years, but at this time, I wanted to look back at them once more to not only see how well they hold up, but go over which ones I think are the most recommended. Keep in mind, everyone has different opinions, and I have my own. So, don't make a stink about it if my countdown doesn't match with what your picks are. Instead, share what your picks are and respect boundaries. That I'd like to see. So, all things considered, here are my top 5 Hearth's Warming Eve specials. Number 5. Hearthbreakers. Being the second Hearthwarming special, Hearthbreakers challenges the viewers in respecting the lines between tradition and creative liberties. By doing so, we get a brief glimpse of Applejack being a stick in the mud when she sees Twilight and Spike's way of celebrating the holiday. Thus, her feelings are amplified as the episode revolves around her struggles on what Pinky's family does. She fears that there would be too much of a diversion than a connection. At the same time, Pinky is eager to help establish the family connection and have a closer one with her relatives. Unfortunately, this brings me to the reason why I place this at the bottom. Firstly, the conflict with Applejack comes off way too pushy and desperate to get the viewers to understand her issue. The activities from Pinky's family were too far-fetched and too alienated to be taken seriously. They were all a set of shallow rock jokes instead of making them an interesting spin as to how they celebrated the holiday. Yes, I know, it's a rock farm, and that's the joke. But not only were they distracting, it nearly made Pinky's family look one-dimensional. It did too well of a job on how alienated Applejack feels that it had to be siding with her the whole time. So when she redecorated the farm with her style without consent, sure, it wasn't her right to do so, but I couldn't get any sympathy with Pinky's family either. It was that much of a disservice. It seemed more counterproductive than it was trying to get us to understand how everyone can celebrate a holiday differently. What also didn't help was my second issue: the family members themselves, specifically Limestone and Marble Pie. Limestone ranged from being a shallow, unlikable character to showing signs of being a psychopath, at least according to her expression in that shot of the dinner table. I also find it annoying that she supposedly is the one in charge of the farm, despite having parents still being around. It would have been better if her character got fleshed out a bit by periodically talking to Pinky privately over any trust issues she would have. Then it would feel more justified as to how she was acting and would potentially have some character growth. And in regards to Marble, she's just another cookie-cutter of Fluttershy without a single line of dialogue. As you can imagine, I was not a fan of this episode. However, it isn't bad by any means. It just had too much room for improvement. And to the episode's credit, the moments outside of Applejack's conflict helps relate those who would have other family encounters for the first time. And their connections are played off so well, such as Apple Bloom and Maud and what they share a common interest with, and the parents, Igneous and Cloudy Quartz, share a fun dynamic with Granny Smith. And beneficially, it shares the origins of the boulder. Certainly contributed to the story better than this bitch. Setting some issues aside, it still does its job learning to respect others and how they celebrate the holidays, and finding a middle ground for each other in the end.
What a wonderful day. As good as mica or clay.
Number 4. Hearth Swarming Eve. The very first episode that introduced the holiday. Provided by a stage play, we're given historical background about the foundation of Equestria, and encountering differences that becomes everyone's obstacle. So basically, Christmas meets 4th of July. Yeah, that sounds every bit as weird as you can imagine, but it's done very well. The episode plays in an old tale of 3 tribes that deal with severe blizzards and blame each other out of spite and distrust. In an attempt to get away from this turmoil, each leader and their colleagues search for new land, only to run into each other again. As expected, they argue and another blizzard ensued. Discovered by their peers, these blizzards turned out to be caused by wendigos, which were creatures who feed off of hate and bring in cold weather. Unlike the leaders, the peers were more willing to get along and set aside their hate, thus defeating them with friendship. All of these connect so thematically well as it plays into the subtitle of the show, and the very concept of wendigos would play a much later role into the series finale. The very idea of having the holiday be based on the foundation with care and joy over hatred makes a greater departure than your usual Christmas theme. Most Christmas specials dive into family and care and a few religious messages added to them, so it's definitely a breath of fresh air when utilizing the theme of diversity over a series of different tribes that connect to one major thing in common. To some, it may seem a little too political given that the story focuses on the leaders and their peers, but it still gets its point across very clearly, and it didn't seem to dive too much into the overtop leadership cliches. Just a bunch of rulers who are close-minded and stubborn that they seal their own fate. Oh wait, that's actually a typical politician. But they're not the focus as the peers are. How this episode delivers, unfortunately, does leave the viewers a bit off in how they feel. First of which is how slower it is compared to the other episodes, which is perceived to be boring. Honestly, I never understood why others would find it boring because of how slow it is. Christmas specials are meant to be slow-paced. They're meant to give you a relaxing vibe while taking a breather. This especially speaks volumes to adults on the stressful nature in preparing for the holidays. Sometimes you need to relax, and a slow-paced special does a huge favor for that. The other of which were how many questions were made over the origins involving Celestia and Luna. When did they appear, and how did they appear after Equestria was made? What happened to the other tribe members when the rulers found Equestria? These were left unanswered, which undermined its own lore to share with the audience. To its credit, there was a brief explanation that the unicorns rose the moon and the sun together to preserve the structure of how the world of Equestria still functioned. However, it did sadden me that it glossed over the opportunity to dive into the sister origins. At that time, I wanted an episode about Celestia and Luna, which wouldn't be until season 7. What we got, though, was a solid message about appreciating different races and setting aside issues for a greater need of each other. And yes, I even like their heart carol. Crowdfunding for GoldenFox Pictures is supported by these following patrons: Angel of Speed, Ashley Kaufman, Blue Griffin Alzora, Brandon Bishop, Courtney Bright, Edwin Flores, Ghost Clan Samurai, Iceberg, Drog1989, Juke Denton, Michael Wallace, Rainbow Who's 521, Riza S, Ruling Renegade, Science Steel Rail, Shuka, Skyblaze 71325, Spinel 87, Thomas Fan 3751, and Warzone. Thank you all very much for your support. I have much more content planned for next year. To find out more, support me on Patreon for blog entries on scheduled releases, sneak peeks, and even a group call of the previously mentioned, along with a game of Among Us, golf with your friends, or any other games you guys can suggest. Links are down in the description. Number 3. The Hearth Swarming Club. Here's an episode where a set of short stories are played out, based on how each character celebrates their culture-based holidays. It's once again another great departure and even more lore to those who wanted to know the show's universe better. Getting the premise down, the young six are held in the friendship school cleaning up a mess as punishment. Waiting to find out who the culprit was, each member shares what they like to do on their holidays. A majority of the time, the stories that are shared here are presented in a comedic fashion, and most of the time they do their job. Starting with this Ocellus' traditions, turning the words of the activities upside down and making every term literal. Yona's holiday with the yaks involves the catharsis nature of destroying anything after being built. Smolder's story takes a twisted turn of events of a lonesome dragon getting sheltered. Sandbars is just a one-off gag. Silver Streams is downright wholesome and provides an adorable art style that's played like it was directly out of a children's book. Gallus', being the most depressing, is saved for last and brings closure to everyone's situation. And it shows a harsh lesson that not everyone gets the enjoyment of their holidays. It's a whiplash of a moment, but it does set up a well-concluded ending in providing moral support. A lot of viewers took issue with how lackluster of screen time was given to the young six, and I honestly can't hold it against anyone over that. Some would not have as much of an engagement with the episode. And admittedly, that's why I placed this midway on the list. I still find it more enjoyable than the previously mentioned entries, but I can understand why some would raise an eyebrow. That being said, I personally was glad to see them interact again and share their holiday traditions regardless of their lack of attention. Some would argue that it's the bare minimum, but when I saw them in School Days, I had the immediate vibe that I wanted to see them more. Their laughter and their curiosity hit such a mark that it felt like Stand By Me or The Sandlot. You know, those movies where a bunch of kids interact and get in various hijinks. I got that feeling with them in School Days and had even more of that vibe in the Hearthswarming Club, since they were solely focused on the episode this time. All things considered, the Hearthswarming Club delivers a fun set of short stories, has more screen time with the young six, and brings an important message about counting your blessings.
Hearthswarming! Eve is here once again!
Number 2. A Hearthswarming Tale. I know many perceive this to be another clone of A Christmas Carol, but this episode definitely hits close to home by delivering its own spin. As the episode begins, Starlight claims that she's not enthused with the holiday, so Twilight tells her a story to convince her that there's more to it than just surface-level joys of presents and candy. Within the story, we have Snowfall Frost playing the role of Ebenezer Scrooge. As the original deals with personal greed and selfishness, A Hearthswarming Tale conflicts with joy and cynicism as she finds it to be another annoyance or a disservice to the pony kind. So she attempts to literally remove the holiday before she is called upon by 3 ghosts to dive into her psychology. Over the course of the story, we are given some wonderful musical numbers. Most people's favorites are either Pinky's Present, which are a recapture of jazz musicals of the 1940s, or Luna's Future, a dramatic orchestral piece that entails the ultra-depressing timeline should Snowfall remove the holiday. Both of these songs share their presentations very strongly with their moods and their tones. Pinky's Present does put a stupid grin on my face, and Luna's Future does a great job with its chilling and haunting vibe. Hearthswarming Eve is here once again, yes, that's a mouthful, comes off energetic, but brings enough joy to make me smile. Say Goodbye to the Holiday, while not my personal favorite, definitely gives a Disney villainish feel that Daniel Ingram outdid himself with. My absolute favorite number of this episode, however, is The Seeds of the Past, where Snowfall is guided to the past to discover the origins of where her cynicism started. She was bright and happy as a filly until Professor Flintheart completely destroyed her hopes and dreams, thus misleading her to a current state of mind. The very unfortunate circumstance from a child having their dreams shot down so ruthlessly can leave a sour impression. A lot of us have been there. Some of us can face a scenario that shapes us for the worst, and it can lead you to a mentally destructive path. I've already shared my personal pep talk when I reviewed the episode, so I won't elaborate it here. But I will say this. Both A Hearthswarming Tale and A Christmas Carol live on through endless iterations because of the themes and topics that have connected more with adults than with children. And more importantly, it's a message that we always need to be reminded of. Enjoy the moments you have, especially during the holidays, as they leave an impactful memory to look back on, and that there will always be more happy memories to look forward to. Prepare for that and enjoy the present.
Eve is here once again.
So I think a lot of you know what's coming since this is the last title related to Hearthswarming Eve. So let's not beat around the bush at what the top spot is. Number 1, The Best Gift Ever. Where do I begin with this one? Admittedly, it's not so much as an episode, even though it was categorized as 196 overall. It's a special that had such an advantage within its span of 40 minutes, keeping a perfect balance with all the main characters without overcrowding one another, and to tell each of their stories so well that it leaves you wanting more. Along with that, some fun musical numbers which, while they don't level up to a heartwarming tale, still leave a good impression. Well, okay, it's two. One More Day and The True Gift of Giving. But they're both beautifully written. Getting the premise out of the way, One More Day defines the biggest obstacle everyone has during the holidays: the stressful time of holiday shopping. Everything the song is composed is chaotic and fun to listen to, and it sets up the plot immediately. In reducing the stress, we're given multiple subplots to each of our main characters by committing to Secret Santa. All of them share their own themes and lessons as they connect together smoothly. Each of their own resort to handling stress, going through great lengths on what to find, understanding the importance of what gift to get, taking on mismarketing, and how one's happiness speaks volumes even by a simple mishap. And of course, no one can forget the very meme of the special.
Wait, pudding!
Yeah, that's a start. But additionally, Twilight's subplot brings a speciality to Cadence and Shining Armor during their visit. Their interactions feel like a married couple who would do anything for each other. I hardly ever see them in the show. Also, Twilightanis was a better term than Twilight in Season 9. Fight me. Discord, despite his very antics, is very guideful to Rainbow Dash without overblowing it. Applejack and Fluttershy bounce off each other more than they have any right to when confronting the Flimflam brothers. Rarity's interaction with Pistachio is beyond wholesome, and Pinky's journey to reaching the reindeer leaves a great plot device that matches everyone's final act: a giant mouse called a Winterchilla and a living pudding lake. Yeah, that sounds like everyone's holiday disaster. All these moments set aside, this special brings a heartfelt ending by Spike's subplot when attempting to get Rarity a gift. I said before that I wasn't a fan of his crush and continuing, but it did leave a wonderful song at the end, The True Gift of Giving. The song concludes that presents are not the most important part of the holidays. Rather, it's spending time with friends and family, making new memories to think back on. It's a cheesy and obvious message, but what makes this work is that every character had a moment together in something while trying to get gifts. They provided something that made the journey worthwhile. And by doing that, the special made a perfect amount of screen time for each character necessary. With so much to offer, this special is something no regular episode would have been able to manage. It's cleverly set up, each moment for everyone is utilized to its fullest, and overall it's just a wonderful special. A Hearthwarming tale may be my favorite, but this special brings a different obstacle that I still face as well as everyone else. Dealing with the stress of holiday shopping, the fact that some mishaps will happen, and that things don't always turn out as planned. But in the end, anything that happens, your close friends and family mean well, and the quality time of spending is more important. That's what makes me love The Best Gift Ever so much. It's what makes me come back to it more often than the other previously mentioned titles, and it's my #1 pick of all the Hearthwarming Eve episodes.
Friendship is the best gift of all.
And that concludes my countdown. I hope you enjoyed this entry since it's been a hot minute in making My Little Pony reviews. And for whatever your picks are for Hearthwarming Eve, feel free to share what yours are. Just don't bicker about it. Until next time, this is GoldenFox, and happy holidays.